Hello, hello, and welcome to today's episode of Her Talk Show. This podcast is dedicated to the growth mindset. You see, I believe that you know something that I don't know, and I believe that I know something that you don't know. And the only way for each of us to rise in our knowings is to sit in the same room and share all the goodness. For those of you that are new to this podcast and love inspirational content like this, make sure you subscribe, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in.
We come to you every day with the best speakers, relationship coaches, spiritual mentors, trailblazers, business owners, authors, young hustlers, podcasters, entrepreneurs, fitness trainers, therapists, financial advisors, and more. We ask our guests one question. What do you know that I don't know? Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
I just love that woman's voice so much. It's just so
very fat.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of Her Talk Show. We have had close to 500 women grace this stage, and we are adding another one to the list. If you are watching us live, welcome. If you are watching us on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay so we can send you some love. Either way, if you are watching this video, if you could do us a huge favor and just share it wherever you're at. That way we can get more eyes and more ears on this awesome content. We would so appreciate it. This is Her Talk Show. We are here to inspire and have you thinking outside the box in no time. Today I'm speaking with an amazing woman named Brandi Kelly. Brandi is a newlywed, a bartender, a mindset recovery coach, and host of the Sober Bartender Podcast. I love that. She specializes in helping people recover not only from alcoholism, but from life. Yes, girl. After 20 years of bartending and 2 years in recovery herself, she realized she had the tools that could help anyone step more fully into who they want to be. Emphasis on the who. Mainly with a big dose of accountability and a serious shift in mindset and perspective, she motivates, inspires, and most of all, gives much needed hope to the world. Recovery is possible for all of us. So excited to sit and chat with this lady. Welcome, Brandi.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here.
Yes, girl. Thank you. I so appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day to hang out and chill and share some of your story and your journey with us. So this podcast relies on one question. We want to know something. We want to know your goodness. We want to know what are the things that you know that you wish other people knew, where you're just like, oh my gosh, if everybody on the whole planet just knew this thing or these things, we would all rise. What are those things? What's that knowledge that you yourself hold, that you use on a daily basis, that you wish everyone knew?
So I love that question. And I've listened to your show before. I've watched your show, so I knew it was coming. And I was like, but there's so many. How do I just pick one? And I think I'm going to go with my favorite because it's on my calendar in the kitchen. I write it down when I'm having a hard time. It is, the obstacle is the way. We go through our life thinking that things shouldn't be this hard and it shouldn't be this. And, those challenges are where we grow. There is no one thing that says it's supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be this smooth paved road. It's no, this is the road where this is our life. And so things aren't always going to go the way that we have it pictured in our minds. And so learning how to adapt and how to overcome and how to navigate the road the way it is instead of the way we think it should be leads to our growth and our freedom from this idea of should.
Yes. How long did it take you to figure that out?
I want to say 2 months sober.
I love that.
This time around.
I love that. Isn't that such a great feeling?
It is. It really is.
How did you wind up bumping into personal development, mindset? What was your first initial confrontation with anything regarding personal development?
Growing up, I had a mom that was very spiritual. Like, we're from Utah, brought up LDS, but she just delved into more of like a spirit guide realm. And like, I grew up going to Sedona, Arizona and getting aura photos. And
Wow.
so I was already on a spiritual path of sorts, but I didn't see the correlation with applying that to life and like life choices, right? So like I saw them being separate things. Like being spiritual was one thing, and then dealing with life was another. And so I always had like the foundation of a spiritual life. But it wasn't really, I didn't come into my space in really wanting to pursue it until I was at the point of desperation.
Yeah.
Getting desperate and then getting better and then just grabbing onto all the self-help that I could is really what led me to lift myself up and then want to lift others up.
Yeah. Isn't it so crazy how the concept is like, it's just like right here. Like when we think about it, it just seems so far away. It's like all the work, and then once you really start to get a hang of it, you're like, I kind of sort of already knew this stuff. Like, why was this so difficult? Why did this seem like such a far away thing? How or why, I guess. Actually, we're not going to go with that. We're going to go with what were the obstacles? Tell us an obstacle. What have you overcome in your life?
Oh, wow. We'll start, like severe alcohol abuse was the biggest obstacle, really. And the biggest obstacle in that was my own mind, was my own thinking telling me that there wasn't another way. Bartender by trade, everyone around you does it. This is normal. All of these things that I'm telling myself in my mind that are keeping me in this sick loop of, just self-hatred and shame and regret and feeling like I should be doing better or be able to do it like other people do it. And I did not have the ability to do that. It's like a constant life theme was like the inability to feel anything, like any kind of emotion needed to go. And that really now feeling my feeling is where feeling is healing, right? Like feeling my feelings is where I get to heal. That's where I get to go, okay, like we're going to let this in and we're going to see what it's all about and what it's doing here and where it comes from. And then we're going to, move forward from it and not live in it. And I did not have that ability because my main go-to thing was just a drink. And not just one, ever.
When we first started talking, you said that our obstacles are the way. So how has your obstacle, your challenge, helped you?
Well, it showed me that anything is possible. Because it didn't seem possible for me to not live the way I was living. It didn't seem like I was either going to drink myself to death or I was going to unalive myself. Those were the two options. So the fact that I'm sitting here talking to you and helping other people every single day and that I even want to, like that's a miracle. That the obstacle, my life's greatest obstacle is the very thing that has given my life joy and purpose and direction. And if I was still avoiding that obstacle, like I can't tell you where I would be, but I have a pretty good idea. But in finally going at the thing, then that's when I don't know that I got over it, but I got through it.
Definitely. So my $1 million question is, are you still a bartender?
Yeah.
I love that. Was that a decision that you distinctly made where you're like, I need to sit down and I need to think about this? Or is it just kind of like, this is what I do? What?
I'm stubborn, girl. I was just like, well, this is what I do, and I can live anywhere, and I can roll into a new city, and I always have this life skill.
Yeah.
And so I continued. And then when I got sick of it, well, now it's been 20 years. And while you do gain a lot of, occupational skills in bartending, it's just what I know how to do. And it's really hard to find, the money elsewhere when you're used to that daily money
Yeah, definitely. What's some advice that you would give to individuals who are realizing that their occupation is causing them to continue to relapse?
I would say that although you can't see another way, there is absolutely always another way. And the only thing that's standing between you and that is your idea that you can't do something else. That's something that I do talk about, is just once you acknowledge what it is, like if you can really look at the problem and go like, this is keeping me stuck, or like, this is hurting me, or I can see that this is really leading me down this road that maybe I've been on before, or I can see where it's going. If you can really look at that thing, like that's where you start. And then once you see that it is, your job, and that you might really thrive in a different environment, that's when you really start brainstorming. That's when you start, talking to people. That's when you start looking at all the connections that you've made and just, get it out there. And I think once you open your mind to it, it starts coming your way. But if you have your mind closed off that this is all I do and this is where I'm at, then that's all you're going to have.
Yeah. You had mentioned that we all have something to recover from. What does that mean?
I kind of, I talk about the Sober Bartender Podcast is a show where we recover from life, but it's really a show where we recover ourselves. So I don't think that it's necessarily like, oh, we're all addicted to either cigarettes or our phones or this. It's like, no, we all have something in us that we're avoiding, or we all have something in us that we're ashamed of, or that we're holding on to, that if we could release it, or just even be willing to see that thing and let go, let our judo death grip of it go, we would experience so much, healing and growth and expansion and opportunity. And so yeah, I talk to people who, are going through PTSD, or people who have left a huge career. I talked to a gal who had a multi-million-dollar, she made it to the $1 million club in her company, and then she left. And just like, those are the things to where I'm like, we need to be true to ourselves, because a lot of us are suffering, and we need to recognize where we're choosing our suffering, because we can't control all the things outside of us, but our choices, we can. We absolutely can.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. When you talk about recovering from life, I don't know if that's exactly how you said it. What do you believe are the pillars for recovering from life?
So like I just said recently, the first thing is the awareness. Just being aware of what is holding you back, or what you're suffering from, what you're holding on to. The first thing is that awareness. And then the second thing is ownership. That's really taking responsibility for your part in it, and you're choosing it, or your ability to choose differently. And then the third thing would be to have a plan. And it doesn't have to be, what plan I recommend, or what plan you recommend, or what your mom or dad thinks you should do. Is just find a plan. There's the internet, there's coaches, there's podcasts, there's infinite resources that are there if you reach out and look for them. And once again, if you open yourself up to that, it is there. And then the fourth thing is accountability. And I don't consider the accountability piece so much somebody calling and checking on you, or checking in with somebody like they're a parole officer. But that would be joining a Facebook community, starting a Facebook group, Going to a recovery meeting, an AA or a recovery Dharma. But, if it's non-alcohol related, then just finding support, or just having a friend that you check in with and you go through and acknowledge, where you're at and what you're experiencing, and take input there. Like those are the 4 things that I feel are what lead us to be able to make those hard changes.
Yeah, I totally agree. You said something. I don't remember what it was. I really like this concept as far as the way that you are describing accountability. So it's not always, checking in with somebody, like you said, like a parole officer. There's so many other things. That's what I was going to say. I appreciate how you are giving a scenario of them taking the lead in something. So giving advice such as starting a Facebook group is something that is doable for anybody. It is not super aggressive or super scary, but really allows you to stand in a point of leadership. And I think so many times when we can be the guide, it makes it so much easier for us to hold ourselves accountable, not only for ourselves now, but now for those people.
Yes, I totally agree. And there was a time that even a Facebook group did seem intimidating, but really it's just a space. Like if you don't know how to find what you're looking for, create it, because chances are pretty good that there's somebody else that needs that too.
Yeah.
And there is something that it's so uplifting and empowering to provide that space, or just, to do it with other people. Because what I do totally keeps me accountable and helps me in what I'm doing. I can't tell somebody, I think you should X, Y, Z if I'm not doing that too.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think has been the biggest mind shift that you have had, or like limiting belief even, that you have had to shift out of in order to get to where you are now, mentally and emotionally?
There have been a lot of those. So initially it looked different. Initially, I had to look at my part, like I've talked about earlier, but recently I've really had to shift my mindset to be able to help multiple people, and not just people that are on the brink of death or suicide when it comes to recovery. So the hardest thing that I've done recently is, my 12-step program saved my life. And recently I've kind of stepped back and started being a participant in multiple recovery pathways, and have been able to take what I've learned from the 12 steps, but also offer more things. So I guess the biggest mindset shift I've had to have is to actually open my mind, and not only have it open to what I think I know or what I think is right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, expand on that a little bit. I get that. Expand on it a little.
So my personal example is AA and the 12 steps. They saved my life. Absolutely. I have nothing bad to say there, but also, as a sponsor and as a woman in a very rigorous lineage, to where, it's 3 points of contact a day, a check-in call every day. That doesn't change when you get into later in your recovery. I noticed a lot of like codependency coming up. I noticed that there was a lot of reliance on, the other people. And then I noticed that I was coming into contact with a lot of people that weren't looking for a spiritual solution. And our answer was, they're just not desperate enough. Mm-hmm. Let's just wait until something bad happens and pray that they make it back. And that didn't fit anymore. That did not sit right with me anymore. And it was one of the scariest things I've had to do, is go, I've loved this thing. I've believed every word that I was fed. And I have to be honest with myself, because it taught me how to actually hear myself. The 12 steps taught me where my intuition is and how to listen to it and how to trust it. And so I had to trust it and go, okay, what else is out there?
Yeah.
And that's been in the last month. That's what I've been up to.
Wow. So just over the course of the last few weeks, you have shifted a little bit as far as your belief in how other people can recover.
Yeah. I used to think that it was, that AA is just the way. And we say, yeah, there are other things, but it was just in my mind that once those things failed, they'd come knocking on our door. But there were so many people that would come in that never came back,
Yeah. I really like this as far as, I'm on the same boat as you. My biggest issue with AA, not that this is becoming an AA bashing segment, but my biggest issue was the I am statement.
I'm there too. Yeah.
Yeah, just not, so I got sober on my own. I've been sober 17, 18 years ish. I don't know when I got sober. It was a Saturday. That's all I know. And my son was barely walking. So he's now 19. So somewhere around there. And I didn't fall upon AA until I met my fiance, and I've been with him 5 or 6 years. And I didn't know AA was like a real thing. I thought it was like in the movies. I didn't know it was like a real community of like a lot of people. I didn't know that. So when I first started going just to check it out with my fiance, he's also sober 15, 16 years. He has an actual date. He went through the whole AA and the detox and rehab and all that stuff. But I had already been in my personal development arena and was already a coach for years before coming into this. And when I heard the AA or the I am statements coming out of these people, the emotion that was coming up inside of me, like real emotion, like wanting to cry, because I don't agree that people should be identifying as something that they do not want to be.
I agree.
And not necessarily having, I'm like a little person in a huge, I don't even know what I'm doing. So not feeling comfortable even saying anything. So I really appreciate that you're coming on here, and you and I hadn't talked before this. You didn't know that that was my view. Mm-hmm. I love that you're just coming up here and you're saying, yes, AA, and
also, because I absolutely needed like the rigorous spiritual ass kicking that I got. Yeah. I absolutely did. And also, now I need something else.
Yeah.
And I need loving kindness for myself. And I'm finding that, in these other ways. And then I'm meeting these people that before I would not be able to help, because I would need to make room for the people that wanted that specific message that I had to share.
Yeah. And I think that that's such a relief for people, because there are so many individuals who just, AA just does not resonate with them. I want to say at least half the people that we get confronted with are just like, yeah, AA is just not my thing.
Also, there's a lot of people that aren't at that bottom.
Yeah.
That also want to stop. And it's kind of hard to swallow that whole pill of,
yeah, I'm an alcoholic.
And powerless. And, that was the biggest thing that was resonating with me, is I am not powerless. I touch alcohol every day, and I choose not to consume it every day. I'm not powerless over it. It's just a substance.
Yeah.
And then to say that my thinking is diseased, I don't want to tell myself that, and I don't want to tell other people that about themselves anymore. And so those things that were such second nature that I would shout from the rooftops, I just had these meditations where I would come out of them and go, oh shit, what am I going to do? Because this doesn't fit anymore.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you almost grow out of it sometimes, and that's okay. We're all allowed to evolve and mature at our own in our own direction, not even own pace, just in your own direction. I think that's what's so beautiful about that. And I think that's what's so beautiful about individuals like you who are stepping into a different mindset, and you're giving others an opportunity to realize that they can overcome this, and it doesn't have to be in the traditional way that so many people push on top of us. There are other ways of doing this, and linking up with individuals like yourself, linking up with my fiance runs a company called Sober Society, where we help people get sober in a very similar mindset of what you're talking about. And I just love that there's an and. I love that there's an and. When you are speaking to individuals who are struggling with alcoholism, what is the first 2 pieces of advice you would give them?
I mean, I do start with the question of obviously they're struggling if they're talking to me about it, but I say, do you want another way? Like, do you want this to stop, or do you just want someone to listen? Because I'm not a good commiserator. I'm not, because it's like, so the first thing that I say is, as much as you don't have a choice in this, there is another way. And now with me talking to you, you know better. And then it's up to you to do better. But the biggest thing is just to give yourself a break. That doesn't sound like what I've been ingrained with. There's a lot of shame surrounding like slips and relapses and that date. I still have it in my head that that's my date, and I don't screw up my date. But honestly, it's just a matter of I choose not to consume alcohol. But with people that are just starting out, you just got to keep going. Like, regardless of what happens, if that's what you want, you can continue to put one foot in front of the other. I really encourage people that do have like a physical addiction to alcohol, and not just like a nagging voice telling them they should probably slow down. But the physical addiction, I really highly recommend medical intervention, because it can kill you. Alcohol withdrawal can. But the people with the nagging, I just encourage them to take a good look, or pick up a book like, The Abstinence Myth, or Alcohol Explained. There are so many books that are not just what you hear about, that really just help you get to the bottom of why you're doing it. Like, if you need a psychological, like or a medical explanation, we have those now. We didn't have those back in the 30s, but we've got them now.
Exactly. Yes. In the 1930s, we did not know as much as we know now. Yep. And that's one of the blessings about living in this era, is the resources, as you said, emphasis on the resources is everywhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely. For those listening live, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. For those of you watching on the replay, if you could hashtag replay wherever you're watching us at, we would so appreciate that. But Brandi, you have a large audience here hanging out with us live, and obviously they're resonating with you. They're resonating with your story, who you are. Can you tell people what specifically you do, and who should be reaching out to you?
Absolutely. So I am, I have the I have the Sober Bartender Podcast. And so that's really a good place if people just want to get an idea of who I am and just kind of listen in, and that will give you different stories and different pathways to recovery from alcohol, as well as stories with, people struggling from PTSD, from, difficult relationships, divorce, So there's a lot of different topics there. And then I am a mindset and recovery coach. So I do help people find different paths to recovery as well as provide support. But mainly being a mindset coach is helping people once they come out of that alcoholic fog and they start to get a little life back. It's kind of hard to know what to do with your hands. It's kind of hard, like, what do I do if that was all I did? And so that's one of my favorite things in the world is helping people set those life goals and figure out where it is they want to go and what it is that they want to do. You know, a lot of us don't know what brings us joy, and a lot of us don't know what we enjoy or what makes us happy. So
exactly. I agree with that. As far as social media, I know your Instagram link is below your face area. Is there anywhere else where people should be hanging out or following you, or is that a good place?
that's a great place. I'm also on Facebook, Brandi Kelly, and there is a Facebook group. It's called the Sober Bartender, and you do get a little more private access to what goes on with the podcast in there. So yeah.
It's called what? The Sober Bartender?
Mm-hmm.
Bartender. And that's a Facebook group?
It's a Facebook group. There's a page that somebody had before, and he posts good stuff, but I don't know him.
But if people put the Sober Bartender in search, you'll pop up?
Yes, ma'am.
I love it. That's fantastic. Why do you do what you do?
It doesn't seem like there's any other way. I wake up thinking about it and I go to bed thinking about it. I didn't get better by somebody else being quiet. It was somebody like me who I didn't think could ever get better, speaking up and telling me, hey, I'm going to go to detox. I'm not going to do it forever, but I'm going to go. It was just this little voice that finally got through to me because it was somebody that I identified with. And I carry that now, and I'm not a little voice. I'm a loud voice because I want people far and wide to hear this is what I was like, and I'm here now. So I'm one of those, if I can do it, you can absolutely do it, because it was not looking good for me.
Yeah. What are your big dreams for your business?
I see myself on a stage. I want to be talking to people far and wide. I would like to be doing, group coaching. I'm picturing retreats. I have the vision. I have the message. So it's just a matter of continuing to put one foot in front of the other to keep it getting off the ground.
Awesome. When you say group coaching, what are you teaching in those groups?
I picture in the group coaching, that's the return to joy and the return to love coaching. That's more of the mindset stuff. But I started drinking at a really young age, and I didn't really, I don't know, I don't remember a lot of my childhood. So, just things like hula hooping and, picking flowers or looking at rocks, like, not that I need to teach a group how to do that, but it's just really like getting back to those core things that we actually love, like our things.
Yes. And creating a new identity.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Or returning to the one that we originally had, that we with all the things,
Yes.
The unbecoming. Amanda JP Brown, I know you know her too. We've been friends for a long time, and she called it the unbecoming, and I thought that was beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah, Amanda's wonderful. Amanda's in our mastermind, actually.
I know. I'm so proud of her.
Yes, she's fantastic. Well, I so appreciate you being here and hanging out with us. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
Just for the people listening, there are different things like this for a little bit of everything. So I did talk quite a bit about alcoholism and recovery from that. But whatever that thing is that kind of hurts in your heart or like in your solar plex, like that thing that kind of eats at you, like when you're ready to take that thing out and look at it and give it some love, like that's like a freedom that's worth having. It's worth just giving yourself that opportunity to not always have that thing that's eating at you and nagging at you. So I encourage people to figure out what that thing is and then try to love it. Try to love it a little bit.
Yes. Well, I so appreciate you coming on, hanging out with us, and sharing so much awesomeness. I think what I really appreciated about this podcast is we spent so much time talking about where you are now versus where you were. And I think that that is the most beautiful thing, when the joy, the happiness, the vibrations, the dopamine comes from where you are now, what you're doing now versus who you were. So I'm so proud of you. I can see the brilliance beaming off of you, and I'm so excited to have you here in this community and really watching you blossom and bloom into who you are becoming, and helping others, reach that pinnacle space also. So proud of you. For those of you watching live, for those of you watching on the replay, if you resonate with Brandi and all the goodness that she shared today, her Instagram handle is right below her face area. Her Facebook group is right below the Sober Bartender at the bottom of the screen here. There was a website, I believe, in the description that's clickable, and I'm sure her social media is on that also. Please reach out. Please drop into her DMs. We'd love to make sure that we connect people here on this platform in order to make sure that we all continue to rise. Thank you so much for joining us here on Her Talk Show. This community is expanding every single day and is filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to the show and love content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. If you have an amazing story to share, please reach out to me at hernation.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others. As always,